what exactly is a chop ride? Well, in Australia, it's what we call a fast, hard ride. You might hear the term chain gang from people over in the UK. They both refer to a brutally fast bunch ride where everyone works together, taking turns on the front to maintain speed. Every major city has one notorious fast-paced ride, and it's where the best local riders go to throw down, and it's definitely not for the faint of heart. My first experience with this style of riding was out at Sydney Olympic Park, where I found I actually enjoy the adrenaline rush and suffering that comes with it. This is where you truly learn how to ride a bike in a bunchie, putting all your trust in the wheel in front of you as you're millimeters away from their tire. At first, this can be quite daunting, especially when the guy in front of you has gone down before and sent you straight into orbit. But hey, I guess that's part of the sport. Anyway, today I'm tackling one of Sydney's fastest chop rides, often referred to simply as the chop by some, or not the chop as Chris Miller would say. This is Thursday morning chop, a staple in the Sydney cycling scene. There are some alternatives that are considered faster like Tuesday and Thursday Arvo, but this ride still holds 0 prisoners. If you can't hold the wheel, you'll be spat out. So, can I hold onto the wheel? Let's find out. Alright, good morning. It is bright and it is early. Thankfully, sun comes up early enough now that you don't need a front light, so no front light, which is awesome. But we are on our way over to Centennial Park for Centennial Park morning chop. So it starts at 5:45, it's about 5:32 right now. It's like an hour of power. Let's get into it. But yeah, this thing is proper fast, proper moving, and it's a proper workout.
It's not looking good, bruv.
I think we average like 48 kilometers an hour, sometimes higher, sometimes lower. Depends who shows up. Anyway, let's get into it. Ciao. So as you can probably tell by now, this thing is absolutely moving, and we are pushing some pretty big watts. My heart rate is up quite high at 166 right now, and I'm currently sitting behind Rich. Now Rich was losing the wheel coming out of that corner a little bit, so I was a bit skeptical here, thinking, do I stay on Rich's wheel or should I push to the front? As you can see, he's slightly trailing behind the guys in front here, so in a moment, I actually decide I'm going to push to the front, burn some bickies, and get back rolling turns with the boys at the very front. Probably quite an audacious attack from me here. I was quite far back in the bunch, and I didn't actually realize how far back I was. So when I came out to the side here, I had a long way to push to the very front of the group. Doing some big watts coming down the side, but I knew that it was slightly going downhill, so my weight advantage was going to help carry me through. I also find that sometimes in a ride like this, sitting at the back of the bunchie is actually worse, and it's better to be rolling at the front because it's like a little rubber band at the very back of the group. You actually have to work harder to stay with the bunch as opposed to if you were just rolling turns. You kind of get that benefit of sitting in, whereas at the back it is quite surgy and it definitely doesn't flow as well as the front of the bunch. I'm not really sure what happened here, but Barry and Eric both looked over their shoulders here and were like, yeah, I'm not chasing that wheel down. So it was either I sit up and stay behind them, or I'm going to have to bridge the gap to Jacob. and I wasn't going to let the rest of the punchy down, so I had to bridge over to Jacob, which did not come easily. It was very hard, and I was pushing some big watts to get across to him. Finally get onto his wheel, and I was like, all right, now I can relax for a little bit. I can take it easy. But Jacob didn't let off. Jacob kept going and kept pushing, so it was definitely not a rest sitting on his wheel and bridging across to that gap. And then Jacob actually had the audacity here to give me an elbow flick in a moment, and I was like, mate, I do not have the capacity to take a turn right now. I'm pretty much hanging on for dear life on your wheel, and you are still pushing, and I'm not getting any rest back here. Jacob actually did an absolutely monster pull here, so kudos to him. But here is that elbow flick that I was speaking of, and he looks around like, is someone going to roll through? And there was absolutely zero chance that I was rolling through here because I was pretty much on the limit. I couldn't actually see what was going on in front of me here, but I saw Juan pop out to the right and he decides to do a big attack. And then the guy in front of me here also does a big attack. That's because one of the guys had lost the wheel. So we all had to put out a massive effort here not to lose the very front group. And this effort bloody hurt. But thankfully we did manage to stay with the guys at the front coming out of that turn. Typically as the morning goes on, you pick up quite a few stragglers who are in the park and they just want to come for a free ride. kind of disrupts the flow of the group, so I'd actually managed to find myself quite far back. I ended up trying to find a gap to get out on the right, and I said to Jace, jump on my wheel, I'll push to the front. So Jace jumped on my wheel and we pretty much pushed the whole way to the front. Again, a big hero move, and it really hurt. As I mentioned earlier, sitting at the back, especially in a ride like this when so many people have jumped in, the rubber band effect is real. So I'd rather do a few squirts to get up the front, maybe a 30-second, 40-second effort, and then sit back in, and at least then it's rolling smooth again at the front of the group. And I just want to preface by saying that there's nothing wrong with jumping into the group and sitting on the back for a free ride. I used to do this when I was newer to cycling, and it's definitely something that most people will do because they want to push the limit. And what better way to do it where you're sitting in a chop ride hanging on for dear life. Fucking best I've done, I reckon, a morning chop. Fucking chaos, like, what a workout.
What's that race in Victoria?
So I reckon today, probably the best I've ever performed in chop. Jumped on first lap, hadn't started yet, it was just a warm-up lap, and then hung on the entire way through the ride, and even managed to roll turns pretty much the entirety of the ride, so absolutely stoked with the effort. And don't feel too bad, so structured training is well and truly paying off. Shout out to Coach Ryan. I've been tracking my macros. Pretty much, I've eaten 180 grams of carbs there already, with only 43 grams of protein, so need to bump those numbers up, man. Max average power was 347 watts, so you can see there, got 347 and then 301. Max heart rate was 172, which is not that high. New 30-minute PB, so new 30-minute 336 watts apparently. 45 at 324 and then an hour at 308. Pretty stoked with that. 30 minutes at 336, not bad. Good day out. I definitely think the structured training is really paying off, and the VO2 stuff that I'm doing fucking hurts, man, but really works. Anyway, that is it for Thursday morning. Ciao.